Hey everyone, today we're taking a really deep dive into the psychology of the disappearing act. We're going to unpack a behavior that is incredibly common, yet somehow completely and profoundly misunderstood. We're talking about the secret language of behavior here, specifically focusing on those moments when people just seem to totally vanish. So, let's jump right in.
I want you to just stop and think about something for a second. Look at the question right up here. When you get really hurt, do you just disappear? Look, you know exactly who you are. You aren't slamming doors, you're definitely not screaming at the top of your lungs, and there's no way you're posting those cryptic, attention-seeking messages on social media. Nope. Instead, you just get quiet. You completely withdraw until you've processed the whole thing entirely alone. Honestly, sometimes people might not even realize it's happening until they suddenly think, wait, I haven't heard from them in a while. If that sounds like you, I really want to validate exactly where you are right now.
Because look at the stark contrast between these two reactions. For a lot of people, an emotional response is just loud, like we see over on the left. It's a cry, it's a huge confrontation, it's all external. But then, on the right, we have the quiet response. And society? Well, society loves to label this quiet withdrawal as just being cold or passive-aggressive. But as you'll see in a minute, this strategic silence is actually a much more complex, inward, physiological response. It isn't coldness at all.
All right, let's get into Section 1, the disappearing act. So here is the absolute core of the whole issue. Strategic silence is not some character flaw. It is literally a survival adaptation. It stems from this deeply, deeply ingrained belief that vulnerability equals danger. And honestly, this is a profound realization. Think about it. If you do this, it's because somewhere along the way, silence became the absolute safest language you ever learned to speak. It's a mechanism of pure self-protection. Which brings us right into Section 2, the origins of silence.
Okay, so where does this even come from? Well, it usually starts right here, in a childhood environment characterized by what psychologists actually call emotion-dismissing parenting. Basically, this is an environment where expressing your pain as a kid led to one of two things. Either you got punished for it, or, and this is arguably worse, you are met with absolutely nothing. Just a blank wall. When a kid repeatedly reaches out, crying or upset, and no one mirrors that emotion back, the brain does something pretty remarkable. You subconsciously conclude that your sound simply wasn't worth echoing. So what do you do to protect yourself? You just stop making it entirely.
And the crucial takeaway is this: your brain starts permanently associating vulnerability with danger. Just look at these points. When you're hurt as an adult, you don't fight back, because speaking up means hoping that someone is finally going to hear you. And for you, based on what you went through growing up, that hope feels like a massive, terrifying risk. It's not a quirky personality trait. This habit gets baked straight into your nervous system.
Now, I really need to emphasize this because it's a real game changer. Your silence is not passive. It is an incredibly active state. While you might look perfectly calm, cool, and collected on the outside, internally, your system is doing a massive amount of hidden emotional labor just to keep you safe. Your silence is literally containing your grief. It's actively managing your expectations so you don't get crushed again. And it's constantly, quietly running background checks to see if the person who hurt you is even safe enough to engage with.
Let's look at what this actually does to you in Section 3, the hidden cost.
To really get this, let's look at a super relatable pattern. Let's talk about Julia. Look at point 1 on our timeline here. Julia is in a long-term relationship, and one night, her partner makes a small, slightly humiliating comment about her in front of their friends. Moving to point 2, on the outside, Julia just laughs it off. She spends the rest of the night being perfectly pleasant, right? Because she's been trained her whole life to seem fine. But inside, she's already folded that hurt up, put it in a drawer, and slammed it shut. Now, fast forward to point 3. 3 weeks later, she realizes she's just kind of less available. The distance between them has grown exponentially, all from a moment that never even had a name.
And this chart brilliantly illustrates the scientific reality behind Julia's reaction, and probably yours too. Research shows that when you suppress your emotions, your outward behavior, that first bar there, drops way low. You look totally fine. But look at the second bar. Your internal stress is spiking off the charts. Your body is literally holding on to what your face refuses to show.
What this actually means is that your system is completely stuck in a freeze response. Your heart rate, your nervous system, they are in absolute overdrive, literally while you're just sitting there, smiling. I really want to assure you right now, you are not overreacting.
Your system is just doing what it learned a long time ago. It learned that letting your guard down meant something terrible was going to happen.
So, how do we update this old programming? Let's check out Section 4, Breaking the Habit.
Fixing this begins with a practical, super low-pressure process called naming it to tame it. Let's walk through the steps together. Step 1. You just have to notice the urge to withdraw. Seriously, don't judge it, just be like, oh, there it is. Step 2. Completely ban the phrase, I'm fine, from your vocabulary in that moment. Just toss it out. And step 3. Try to label the specific emotion. Instead of saying you're fine, try saying to yourself, I feel really heavy right now, or I feel small.
And if you want to know the mechanics of why this works, it's pretty incredible. When you name a specific emotion, it literally shifts the power away from your brain's fear center and hands it right back over to your logical mind. It proves to your body that you actually have the ability to regain control and override that physiological freeze response. You don't even have to confront anyone yet. You literally just have to name the feeling to yourself.
Now I want to pivot for just a second and speak directly to the loved ones. If you're watching this and you love someone who does this vanishing act, here are the most healing, actionable steps you can possibly take. Offer them a consistent, patient presence. Show them you've noticed the shift, but please, whatever you do, don't fill the silence with noise, and absolutely do not pressure them to talk. Reach out to them without making them perform their pain for you. Just that simple act of reaching into the silence, it can be more healing than any massive, dramatic apology ever could be.
Let's just pause, take a breath, and really let this quote sink in. You are allowed to be a beginner at being taken care of. Look, your silence made complete sense once. It stepped up and protected you when you desperately needed it. But that kid inside of you, the one who had to be so mature and so incredibly quiet, they deserve to finally rest. It is totally okay if you don't know how to let people in yet. You are allowed to be a beginner.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with this final thought on the screen. You do not have to be okay to be worthy of connection. The very next time you feel that intense urge to just vanish, I want you to ask yourself, am I retreating to find actual safety right now, or am I just blindly repeating a script from a childhood I've already survived? Because guess what? You are completely allowed to update that script. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive today. Stay curious out there, and remember, you are absolutely worthy of connection exactly as you are. See you next time.